Okay, so rates and unit rates hopefully will be pretty quick and simple, okay? There's a few definitions I want you to put in your notes. Okay, so the first one is a rate. Okay, I want you to write this in your notes. A rate is a comparison of two quantities that have different units. And I'll give you a minute to write this down, and then I'll give you an example. A comparison of two quantities that have different units. Okay, so what I mean by this is we're going to look at rates as comparing things like miles to gallons. Okay? Or dollars to ounces. So we're having different units. We're looking at miles and gallons. We're looking at dollars and ounces. We're not comparing the same thing. We're not comparing ounces to ounces. We're comparing different units. Okay? So that's going to look like this. Okay, so it says Isaac can run 2 miles in 13 minutes. Okay? Now, we're going to write a rate for miles per minute. Now, it's super important that when you read a problem, you pay attention to what they're asking. This one says write the rate for miles per minute. So when I'm going to write this rate, it has to go in that order. In words, I have to put miles over minutes. Okay, and so the rate, it's 2 miles in 13 minutes. So it's 2 over 13. Okay, done. That's the rate. That's all you have to do if you're asked to write a rate. Okay, now part B says write the rate for minutes per mile. Notice how I changed it. I switched the words around. Okay, so we have to pay attention to that this time the minutes comes first and the miles goes on the bottom. So if I was asked to write a rate for minutes per mile, I would put 13 over 2. So you have to pay attention to which way, what order the words are in. If it's miles per minute or minutes per mile. Okay? Does that make sense to everybody? How you know what order it should go in. Okay, and it'll always say in the problem what you're trying to find. Okay, so let's then move on to what's called a unit rate. Okay, I want you to put this definition in your notes. A unit rate is a rate in which the second quantity in the comparison is 1. And I'll give you a minute to write this down. A rate in which the second quantity in the comparison is 1. Okay, so what that really means is we want the bottom number to be 1. Okay, so we're going to set up a rate, but then we're going to change it so that the bottom number ends up being 1. Okay, and I will show you how that's done. Okay, so we've got the same problem. We've got Isaac can run 2 miles in 13 minutes. Write a unit rate to find out how many miles he can run in 1 minute. Okay, so now look at the problem. It says how many miles comes first in a minute. Okay, so the rate is that he can run 2 miles in 13 minutes. So there's our rate. Okay, I want a unit rate, and a unit rate means we want the bottom number to be 1. I want to know how many miles can he run in 1 minute. How do you think I'm going to get there? I somehow need to change this rate to get the bottom number to be 1. Any ideas what I can do? Yeah, somebody wrote in the chat, divide by 13. Because 13 divided by 13 would be 1. So we're going to divide the top number by 13. And you guys, here's where your calculator comes in handy. Okay, we're going to do 2 divided by 13, and it has to go in that order. And it's not a nice number. So you're going to round to 2 decimal places. So it's 0.15 miles per minute. That's the unit rate. Okay, 0.15 miles per minute. Okay, the second one says find a unit rate to find how many minutes per mile. Okay, now notice that it's put in a different order this time. This time I want the minutes first. So this time we're going to put 13 minutes over 2 miles. So we have 13 over 2. And if I want a unit rate, I need to get the bottom number to be 1. So what do I divide by this time? What should I divide by? I would divide by 2, absolutely. Okay, you always end up dividing by whatever is on the bottom. So we're going to do 13 divided by 2, which is 6.5. Okay, so it's 6.5 minutes per mile. Okay, those two things mean, these 2 unit rates mean the exact same thing. Which one's more useful? A or B? Which one do you think makes more sense? Which do you think is more useful information? To know 0.15 miles per minute or 6.5 minutes per mile? Would you say part A is more useful or part B is more useful? If you had to choose. Okay, and personally, I would say B. I would say this is more useful. You guys, if somebody came up to me and said, hey, guess what? I can run 0.15 miles in a minute. I'd look at them and probably say, good job. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. However, if somebody came up to me and said, hey, guess what? I can run it takes me 6.5 minutes to run a mile. I would look at them and say, wow, you're fast. Right? If you can run a mile in 6.5 minutes, you're pretty fast. Or that's way faster than me. It takes me about 10 minutes to run a mile. Okay? So to me, this is more useful information. Okay, questions there? Okay, let's try another one. On a road trip, Sarah drove 180 miles in 3 hours. Okay, this says write a rate for the miles per hour. Just a rate. So if I just want to write a rate for miles per hour, that means miles has to go first and hours has to go on the bottom. Okay, in numbers, just a rate would be 180 over 3. Because it only asked for a rate, I'm just leaving it like that. Okay, now if I ask you for a unit rate, write a unit rate to find out how many miles per hour. Now I would do 180 miles in 3 hours. The unit rate means we want the bottom number to be 1. So we're going to do 180 divided by 3. You always divide by whatever number's on the bottom. So 180 divided by 3 is 60. 60 miles per hour. Okay. Are they driving fast? Depends on what road they're driving on, right? If they're driving in town, driving 60 miles per hour, yeah, that's a little fast. If they're driving on the county road 60 miles per hour, they might be going over the speed limit yet, but it's not that fast. Okay, questions on that unit rate problem? Okay, and all of these notes will be posted on Canvas, so you'll be able to go back and look at them. Okay, would it make sense, what do you think, to find out how many hours it takes to drive a mile? Would that make sense to find the unit rate in the opposite direction? Hours per mile. Okay, if we were going to find hours per mile, that means we would put 3 over 180 because it's 3 hours over 180 miles. And we would have to divide, we'd have to do 3 divided by 180, which ends up being 0.02 hours per mile. I don't think that makes much sense. 0.02 hours per mile. Okay, so I would say no, this does not really make sense for me to figure out. Miles per hour makes sense. Hours per mile doesn't really make sense. Okay, last problem we're going to do. We're going to do this in 2 parts. Okay, concession stand is selling an entire 9-slice pizza for $12. Okay, so let's say we could actually go to basketball games and we're not in the middle of a pandemic. And you were going to go to a basketball game and you got there and you were going to buy an entire pizza. Hopefully you're not going to eat it all yourself. Maybe you're going to share with your friends. Maybe you'll eat it all yourself. I don't know. But the whole pizza is 9 slices and it would cost you $12. Okay, we want to find the cost per slice. Okay, so the way the question is worded is super important. The cost per slice. What number has to come first, the 9 or the 12? What number goes on the top? If I want to find cost per slice, the 12 has to go on the top. So it's $12 for 9 slices. Okay. We want to find the cost for one slice. So I want the bottom number to be 1. Okay, so that means I'm going to grab my calculator and I'm going to divide by 9. I'm going to do 12 divided by 9. You always divide by what's on the bottom. And we're dealing with money, so we're going to round to 2 decimal places. So it's going to be 1.33. Okay, and we'll label it. The cost per slice is $1.33 for one slice. Okay, so maybe you didn't want to buy the whole pizza, you just want one slice. You need to have $1.33 to buy just one slice. Okay, now let's figure this out the other way around. How many slices can you get per dollar? Okay, so I said you have to pay attention to how the question is worded. This one says, how many slices can you get per dollar? So slices has to come first. So we would put 9 slices over $12. Okay, if I want to know how many slices I can get for $1, I want to get the bottom number to be $1. Okay, so now we would divide. What am I going to divide by this time? You always divide by whatever's on the bottom. So we're going to divide by 12. So we're going to do 9 divided by 12, and it's 0.75. How should I label that 0.75? What would be the label on that? It's got to either be slices or dollars. So what do you think? 0.75 what? Yes. Savannah had it right. It would be slices. Okay, I put slices on the top, so that needs to stay my label on the top. So you could get 0.75 slices for $1. Which one makes more sense, A or B? Which is more useful information, A or B? Type it in the chat, either A or B. Good, I'm glad most of you are choosing A. This is way more useful. If I went up to a concession stand and said, oh, sorry, I only have $1. Can I get a part of a slice of a pizza? They're going to tell me to go away. Right? They're not going to give me a partial slice of pizza. So part B doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to get that information. Knowing that it's $1.33 per slice is much more useful. Okay, questions there? Okay.